Saludos, programas, and welcome. Hope everyone's doing well tonight. Buenas noches a todos. I am El Buntador Número Dos, and we are here to talk about some CMLL Lucha Libre, some Consejo Mundial Lucha Libre. And here with me are my most esteemed friends and fellow hosts. First, we have El Jefe Mikey.
Hola. I'm super excited to be here. I love that the whole crew is back together because there's a lot of things that went down this week and some news that also broke today, which, we should probably cover since it's kind of related to CMLL.
Yeah, we'll cover that off the gun. But before we cover that, we have to introduce Papa Oso. Will, welcome back, Will.
Hey everybody. Glad to be back.
Yes, you were missed last week. You were definitely missed last week. As I said at the top of the show here, this is the Consejo Mundial Lucha Libre review show, where we do cover all the things CMLL or that had happened this past week. And actually today we had a very some very exciting news that dropped and kind of unfolded throughout the day, and that was concerning one Stephanie Baker, who made, if you watch CMLL wrestling, you knew who she was because she held the women's championship. She held the tag team women's championship. If you watch New Japan, you knew who she was because she held the New Japan Strong Championship. And then if you watch Forbidden Door over on AEW, then you know who she was because she's the one that wrestled Mercedes Moné, and who lost the belt but won the crowd over in doing so. The news that came out today, Mikey, why don't you go ahead and let us know what the news that came out today was.
So to give the Reader's Digest version, because everything just happened within the span of a couple of hours. So first, and the rest of the boys were able to follow along because I was sending the updates. So CMLL and New Japan are having a pay-per-view show this weekend, Fantastica Mania USA, and Stephanie was scheduled to be there. It was originally going to be a one-on-one match. Announced that it would be for the CMLL Women's Championship, the Amazona title, which I was like, okay, cool, this is going to be great. CMLL and New Japan put out a joint statement that Stephanie decided that she was going to be moving on, leaving CMLL due to personal reasons, as they put in air quotes. I was like, oh no, I hope everything's okay. I hope it's not bad. I figured she got signed somewhere. I was like, all right, let me see who could possibly do it. But in the statement, New Japan and CMLL stated that now the match that Stephanie was originally going to be a part of is now going to be a triple threat to determine who will be the next CMLL, Amazona championship. And thankfully, they still have Yuvia there, so Yuvia still gets to fight for the championship. But now she will be fighting two other women in the form of ROH staple Viva Van, which I'm super excited for. But then everybody's favorite babyface right now, you know her, you love her. It's Yuvia versus Viva Van versus Willow Nightingale. And I'm just like, yes. I was like, I'm here for any of those three women's. Low key, though, I would love to see Willow win it because then she'll be in Mexico for a little bit. I'm just like, oh, yes, give me.
And she would do so well in CMLL, I feel.
She did great with the New Japan Strong Women's Championship. Yeah. She got to fight a bunch of, stardom women over in Japan. Imagine like all the Amazona she can fight in La Catedral specifically. I want to see Willow versus these. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but Willow versus Tessa Blanchard would be really good too.
That'd be really good, yeah. But this going a little further over on Stephanie's Instagram, which I did follow. She did actually address this. She did comment on it. She said that everything, the split between her, CMLL, and NJPW were amicable. There's no bad blood. It was just It had to happen because then later on the night, one
Shawn Michaels made it official
from NXT made it official that Stephanie Baker will be in NXT. And I know that we talked at length before we went live about this, but really quick, I want to hear, if we can, a summation of your thoughts on this. Let's start with
1
you,
minute
Will.
or less.
Yeah, in a minute or less. What's a summation of your thoughts on Stephanie going to NXT? Yeah, Will. Yeah, you're Will.
I didn't hear you call my name.
Me in school, honestly.
I was sitting there going, I'm listening. And then I was like, oh, you're talking about me. Oh, my bad. Well, as I have a mouthful of M&Ms. Well, first of all, I didn't get to know her as well in CMLL because I only saw her I think once in one fight, which was brilliant. And so I don't have necessarily the deep feelings of that separation because, like I said, I've only seen her wrestle once. Now, with that being said, I think it's fantastic that she understands that, or she understood or understands that she basically she went as far as she could where she was at. So this step is a logical next step. I think that it's very congratulatory for her because this is a huge step. It's not just let me take this little bitty step over here. It's a massive step going from sort of CMLL or, the Mexican or the Wrestling Federations of Mexico into the United States, into a WWE affiliate, even though it's NXT, which is fantastic because I myself am a very big fan of NXT and the people and the wrestlers there. And I think it's a great place for her to start. I honestly don't think she'll be there very long. I think she will work her way up so fast and they will snatch her into main roster or somewhere. I think she will bring a revitalization to the women's division there. I think she'll bring, well, obviously, and like we had said previously before we came online, that's if they don't pull her back. And I really kind of hope they don't, but it's a fear, and I think it's a shared fear. I'm not going to speak for everybody, but I feel that it is. I also think that I wish she had gone to TNA or one of those folks, but I'm glad. I'm very happy for her. Let me just put that out there in the universe. I'm extremely happy for her. I think NXT will be a great launching platform for her. And I think, and as we were talking offline, I long and I can't wait to see her wrestling some of the people that are already there, because there are some strong wrestlers at NXT, and I think that she will fit in well there. I think, yeah, she's a much more sort of aggressive fighter than I think what we have at NXT currently, and I think that's a good thing. I think that it will stir things up. I think it will set people's minds to the idea of, oh crap, I've got to be better than I am, because here comes this badass into our mix. And so I'm very excited for that. I'm excited for what she will do for NXT as much as her coming to WWE NXT will do for her. So I think in my heart of hearts and my hope of hopes is that it will be a equal partnership, that she will help them, they will help her. So that is my honor. That is my, you know, and I'm not going to get into my personal stuff because it's irrelevant. So, but for her coming to and going to WWE to NXT, I think it's fantastic. I think she's going to do amazing. I think that we're going to see some great things from her. And I think we're going to start seeing some great things from people who are already there because of her. So
cool. All right, Mikey. What are your thoughts?
So I'm in agreement with my other co-hosts here. I think we are all very excited because this will give Stephanie a larger platform to be showcased to the Western audiences, which I think is always great, especially when it comes to those who aren't familiar with the international talent, because we did the same thing with Asuka when she signed coming over from Japan during the Black and Gold era. You know, just we had Kairi Sane, we had Io Shirai, like all these big international girls coming over makes me super excited. Of the three of us, I think well, not even the three of us. I'm going to be optimistic because WWE underneath the previous regime has shown that women, especially women of color, don't necessarily get the fair shake that I think they are deserved. But NXT and main roster have been slowly trying to rectify that, though it's going to take them a while to undo years and years of just the system that got put in place. But I'm really excited to have Stephanie in NXT and to kind of echo what Will said, not only to give Stephanie the opportunity to be able to have classics with people that are already in NXT, but I can also see it working the other way where a lot of these newer girls can learn from Stephanie since Stephanie's been in the business for a long time. Like immediately, the one that comes up to mind, I would love Stephanie and Lola Vice to kind of form a kind of friendship, kinship, because they're both Latina. They both have a similar style. And Stephanie being able to train Lola in the hard hitting style to be able to utilize her MMA background more in the sense of like Japanese strong style would be amazing. And then, of course, selfishly, I'm excited to see what kind of matches Stephanie will have with the girls in NXT. Her versus Julia is at the top of my list. Roxanne versus Stephanie. Shoot, I'll even throw in Sol Ruka versus Stephanie versus anyone. But what makes me more optimistic too is because of this relationship that NXT and TNA are slowly evolving into and what we have. I mean, this past week we had the Rascals are going to be in NXT. Joe Hendry showed up on NXT this week to team with Trick Williams. We have NXT kids in TNA right now, you know, on the tapings, which is really, really cool. I would love to see Stephanie go fight some folks in the knockouts division, especially Stephanie versus Jordan, Stephanie versus Giselle Shaw, Stephanie versus pretty much anybody on that knockouts women roster. Like, I want to be optimistic. Again, we're all kind of collectively going through our brains of what can be and what maybe will be. Who knows? But I'm going to wait until we see Stephanie debut and the first couple matches to make my verdict if this was the right decision. I mean, WWE is looking for a bunch of stuff. The other thing is not CMLL related, but a big tag team may have signed with WWE too as well. So that's kind of crazy. But I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm happy for Stephanie. She gets to be showcased on the Western audiences. I just hope that Shawn Michaels down in NXT and eventually Triple H, when Stephanie gets moved to main roster, whenever that is, she gets the same treatment as some of our bigger women's stars, but also some of the big international men's stars like a Gunther or Ilya Dragunov. Let her be a powerhouse in this division. Also, I need my Latina mommy Stephanie to take on my other mommy Rhea Ripley in a match. That's all I'm saying.
That would be good. Yeah, that would be pretty good. All right, so that is the hot news that broke today. So now we're gonna get into it because we had a whole bunch of craziness that happened this week in the CMLL shows and the shows that we watched. So the first show that we're going to get into, actually, before we get into that, we're going to do a little Lucha 101, which is just a very quick segment that I do to help introduce the
Ole. That's the
exactly.
soundbite now.
So Lucha 101, Ole. for this week is the Relevo Australiano. So when you watch CMLL, you'll see a lot of the trios matches. They'll have that Relevo Australiano rules. Relevo Australiano. So basically, loosely translated, that means Australian rules. And this is the rule set that I had explained back in the beginning, where each trios team has a captain. And the way that you win is either by pinning or having the captain submit, or pinning or having the other two people submit. The reason why I bring this up is why is it Relevo Australiano? Why Australian rules? That's kind of odd. So I dig some digging. I could not find an official source. Unfortunately, as with much of wrestling, a lot of it is hearsay and stuff that's been like passed down through the generations. But apparently, the Australian rules, the Relevo Australiano, is a homage to the first either tag team or tag team match that was held in Australia. And it's loosely based off of that. So that's why you have that terminology in a Spanish broadcast. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone. But so the first show that we're going to cover, getting into the shows now, is the Friday show, the 5th of July, from the Catedral de Lucha in Mexico City. We have the Viernes Espectacular, which this week it was the 40th anniversary of Felino. Really quick, the dancers, I caught their names. We had Gabby, Steph, Chara, and Sandra. Have to give them a shout out because they are a very integral part to the show. And for the ref for the first few matches we have here, his name was Olympico. So if you watch the CMLL, you'll probably see Olympico in there calling some of the matches. But our first match was Sangre Imperial and Inquisidor, who are your rudos, versus Electrico and Astral, who are your technicos. So this was a tag team match with one pinfall, but that pinfall is that both team members had to be pinned from the team. So in this matchup, we did have our technicos, Electrico and Astral, come out with the win. Let's start with you, Mikey. What did you think of this match?
I thought this was a solid opener. I'm now getting used to how the rules are working, so I think I'm slowly getting into the groove, which is fantastic. Like I said, I thought this was a good opener. This was a single pinfall. Both members needed to be pinned. I really loved the submission move that got, resulted in the tap out too. I was like, ooh, I haven't seen this kind of submission before.
Yeah.
This is, I'm going to be saying this for a lot of this. This is a lot of fun. Obviously, this match didn't go on too long because this is the opener to whet the appetite of the crowd still coming in. But I thought this was a lot of fun. This was really great. And again, the overall presentation and the pageantry of, CMLL and the Lucha Libre and all of like the rave songs for all these wrestlers. I'm like, somebody hit the Spotify playlist and I'm here for it. I really, really love it. I just like the atmosphere, the crowd, there's such a big cultural differences because, since we're in Mexico and everybody's getting into it, like there was never a moment where everyone was just deadpan quiet. I was like, take notes, United States. I was like, what is happening here? But I thought this was a good opener. This was fun.
All right. Will, what did you think of our first match? Sangre Imperial and Inquisidor versus Electrico and Astral.
Well, I really liked it, but I'm going to be one of those people that's going to like it no matter what. So it could have probably been the worst match in the world, and I was oblivious to it because I was so enjoying it. I also agree that I love that the crowd is so involved.
Yes.
And I love that they do like like kiss cams almost, where they like focus on members of the audience while the match is going on, just so you can see the sort of the spirit of the event, and which just makes me even more excited about it because it makes me think, oh gosh, I wish I was on there. It's like with my mask. I was like, because it was great. It was so energetic. It was so energizing, and I thought the match was great. I liked all 6 of the wrestlers. I thought the Inquisidor was a badass.
Yeah.
I also thought Astral was super fun to watch.
Yep.
I think it was when he and the Inquisidor were going at that point, and he was just. And again, and I've said it before, the men's wrestling is like watching dance. It is so graceful and fluid. It is the funniest thing. Even when they're slamming each other on the ground, it is like this beautiful like lift and then pull down. And it's amazing to watch. And I love it. And there was that slap heard round the world. Oh my goodness. I literally looked away for a second and I heard this swat, and I was like, what the hell was that? So I had to rewind it. And I think that was that I think it was Sangre and Electrico, I think it was. Wasn't it? Is that who it was? I can't remember.
Yep.
But my God, that was loud. And I mean, I don't know if it was the acoustics of the facility or that was just perfect placement of the hand. I don't know, but it sounded like it hurt.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. But no, it was fantastic. I loved it. I loved it all. And I love the dancers. I love the round girls, the ones that go with the sign around. I love that stuff. It's just so great how, and I agree with Mikey on the pageantry and the showmanship of it all. The costumes, the entrance music, the dancers. It's just great. I had such a great time watching it. I was watching it in my office today when I should have been doing work, but but I just got so into it that it was just great. So
nice. Cool. All right. Well, we got a few more matches, a lot more matches to go, as a matter of fact, because that was only our opener. Our next match was a Relevo Australiano, as I had talked about earlier, and this saw Raider, Espanto Jr. con Mije, and Akumura versus Fuerza Poblano, Pegaso, Pegaso, yeah, Pegaso, yeah, Pegaso, Stigma, and Guerrero Maya Jr. Raider Espanto Jr. and Akumura are your rudos in this match, and Pegaso, Stigma, and Guerrero Maya Jr. are your technicals this match. So the first, since this was the best 2 out of 3, the first pinfall did go to the Technicos, where Akumura got pinned, and Espanto Jr. got pinned as well. But then the next 2 went to your to the Rudos, where the second pinfall, Stigma was pinned, and then the third pinfall saw Stigma getting pinned again. Let's start with you, Mikey. What did you think of this second match?
One thing that I love about CMLL, there's no such thing as an age difference in terms of like who faces who all the time. And again, it's a mind shift from how we treat Western, wrestlers and here in Mexico. Because I dubbed this as Team Youngblood versus Team Salt and Pepper Shakers because our Rudo team was made up of a lot of older wrestlers, which I loved. Also, I was just like, as soon as I saw Okumura on here, I was like, hold up, what's one half of the MLW tag team champs doing here? And then I was like, oh, wait, hang on. those titles are going to be defended at Fantastica Mania USA. So I was like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense now. I really, really enjoyed this match. What I loved is that, again, you have on the Rudos team, you have your two Lucha Libre stars that, are fluent in Lucha Libre. But then you have, Okamura, who is trained in that New Japan, like more snug and hard hitting. And those are two styles that I didn't think worked very well until I saw this match. I was like, nope, never mind. I take back what I said. Let me eat crow real quick. I gotta say, I think Guerrero Maya Jr. is one of my favorites. I was like, the whole entire presentation of his character. And I'm gonna be saying this for a lot of this. I'm like, big boys for life. I'm just saying it. Like, seriously, no age limit, no weight limit. This was a fun match. Again, the crowd was perfect for all this. They knew who to cheer for. They were booing who they got to, which I'm going to bring up during a certain match, because my favorite match of this particular episode is thanks into part of how invested the crowd got into it. But for this, match, the 6-man tag team, I really thought this was a fun, secondary match. And shout out to everyone involved. This was a lot of fun.
All right, Will, what are your thoughts on our second match?
I loved it. I wanted. It's so funny because when Okamura came out, I was like, "Oh my god, how old is he?" And I didn't mean that in like a derogatory sense. I was like, he's like, I think he's like 50 something. He's actually not that old. So I was, when he first came out, I was like, "Oh, okay, that's interesting," because this is the first time I've ever seen this sort of mixed age before, and I love it. Other than, we've seen some in American wrestling as well and things of that, but this was a neat match in its makeup, because I mean their age ranges are like, when I was looking them all up because I was just curious, I mean it's like from the 30s up into the 50s, and I think one of them was in their late 20s. But I really enjoyed this match. I really liked the mixture of styles. I was not a fan of Espanto's gear, that black and white gear. I was not a big fan of that. It was weird looking. The white underwear over the black. It was just weird. I was like, I couldn't stop looking at it. I was just like, that needs to go away. The Stigma versus Raider, their stuff was super fun. I think it's funny, Micah, that you said the Salt and Pepper group. That was funny, because I was thinking the same thing. I was like, it's almost like the young ones against the veterans, and which I love. I also love that they don't hide their age. Like, they don't try to disguise it.
Yep.
He came in and he's like, "This is who I am, and I'm proud of it."
Yep.
And I was like, "Well, yes, you are." And so, yeah, this was a really good one. This was a really good match. I mean, as the night went on, they just got better and better and better for me. Because it's so funny, and I'll just briefly touch on it, is the idea of the 6-man tag team type setup. Like, they're all that, and I think that's so neat. And because we're so used to the 4-man, the 2 and 2, and so it's really neat to watch the technical aspects of these matches, because the rules are so different than like an American tag team. And like the whole idea of, your partner could be in there beating up on your opponent with you, and they're like, "Okay, good. Okay, that's great." It's like, which just blows my mind. And and watching these, man, I'm so speechless sometimes, because it's like watching these guys fly through the air, and that's that Okamura was doing it too. Yeah. I mean, he was like up on those ropes and he was jumping and they were flinging themselves over. This is one of the things I love about CMLL is it is like going to watch Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean, they just launch them. They catapult themselves. I love how their use of the ropes.
Yes.
I love how they use the ropes as part of their technique. And so, yeah, this was a great match. I loved it.
Okay.
Again,
Right.
you know, you're not going to hear me say anything bad, really. I mean, other than I will say this one thing, and I'll shut up. Is the biggest question I had the whole time I was watching this thing is how did these people wrestle with those huge ass earrings on?
If you look, those earrings actually aren't attached to their ears; they're attached to the masks.
Oh, are they? Oh, I couldn't tell that at all. Oh my god, that's so funny.
Yeah. So they're like attached right here under the mask.
Oh, see, I thought it was attached to there because that was in the Guadalajara show. There was one there that it looked like it was actually their ear.
Yeah. No. Yeah. But
that is wild. Okay.
Yeah, Espanto Jr. has his mask has that, but if you look, there's a hole that his ear comes through, and like right underneath where his ear is on the mask, that's where they clip the earring in.
Oh, okay, but it looks like it's in their ear.
But it looks like it's in their ear. Yeah.
Okay, so that's why I was like, how can they do that? How are they not ripping those things out of their ears? I was like, good Lord. So now I know. So
now you know.
The more you know.
The more you know. So then we had a little quick spot where we had Hijo de Pantera and Pantera calling out Felino and congratulating him on his 40th anniversary. However, they are going to step in and make his 40th anniversary sad because they are going to beat him. And it was a really quick spot. You know, nothing to really talk about. But the thing that we are going to talk about is the Amazona match that came afterwards, which was a match Relampago, where you had Persephone versus Tessa Blanchard. Really high-paced, high-octane match. In the end, you had Tessa Blanchard winning, making Persephone tap out. Let's start with you, Will. What did you think of our match Relampago?
Well, as I've said many times, the women are badass. I mean, far more than like American women wrestlers. Man, I enjoy watching them just beat the crap out of each other.
Yeah.
And again, I'll say it, because I said it last time, the women's fights in CMLL are more manly than the men's fighting. The men's fighting is so like dancers dancing, and then the women are literally like Hulk smash.
Yes.
You know, like it's so neat. It's such a neat sort of juxtaposition.
Yeah.
Of like American style, because you know usually the men are far more aggressive and the women are a little bit more choreographed. I kind of wish they had male and female dancers. Like a mixture, you know, because like when the women are wrestling, you know, they might want to see something, you know.
Sure. Yeah, totally.
So, but anyway, that's beside the point. No, but I thought both of these, again, this is the first time I've ever seen these women wrestle. My first introduction to them, so I don't have a lot of backstory on them, but I really, really enjoyed watching. This is probably the one I stopped doing the most stuff and actually watched the match.
All right.
Because it just caught me from the beginning. I thought that it was so dynamic and it was so electric.
Yeah.
That I couldn't turn away. I don't know if that was, you know, the car crash mentality and you just can't look away from it or what, but it was so good. It was so good.
No, yeah, no, it was definitely a great match, kept your attention. Mikey, what did you think?
You know, this ended up being in my like top 2 matches of this particular episode of the, um, Super Viernes show that we've had the last 3 weeks. So, this was my first time seeing Persephone, but I am all too familiar with Miss Tessa Blanchard because anybody who tuned into our podcast episode where we talked about problematic people, Tessa was one of the people that I covered in terms of, she was in TNA, some things happened, so now she's been wrestling out of Mexico. Putting that aside, her talent is unparalleled from everything that has happened, and I love the urgency from both of them because there is a time limit. And once again, thank you CMLL for actually putting a timer on the screen. So I love to see that. Yeah, this was messy, but like in a good way because it worked to the favor of the type of match that they were having. There is a 10-minute time limit. You need to try to pin or submit your opponent as quickly as you can. So there was a sense of urgency, and these girls just threw everything that first and foremost, Persephone's outfit with like little tassels attached to her thing. I was just like, how that work? But I'm interested. I will say, I know Tessa won. I love her to death, but honestly, I became a fan of Persephone. Just Persephone gives me Raquel Rodriguez vibes because which makes a lot of sense because of the fact that she is from El Paso, Texas. I was like, yep, women's wrestling in Texas is all about the big, strong women throwing people around, and I love to see it. But Persephone took Tessa and walked her up the stairs of the entrance ramp and did a back body suplex to Tessa on there. I was like, oh my gosh, somebody check the MRI scans. Hopefully nothing is broken. And then also, too, when Persephone later in the match got to the top rope and literally did a top rope drop kick straight to Tessa, I was just like, oh, these women are out for blood. And this was as hard hitting as I knew it was going to be because the Amazonas take no crap from nobody, which I love. And this ended up being a really, really good match. Again, I want to see more Amazonas. I know that between all the shows, I can see different Amazonas all over the place, but give me more in La Catedral. Like, this was a fantastic match. I loved it.
Yeah. Yep. So, like I said, Tessa Blanchard got the tap out win, but it was definitely a great match to watch. Definitely worthy of a rewatch. If just watch the match. So this brought us then to our celebration of Felino and his 40th anniversary. Just really quick, some information about Felino. Felino, he was there starting when it was EMLL. Before it changed to CMLL. He's known as El Luchador Más Rápido. He was a welterweight champ, a trios champ. And believe it or not, he's a rudo. It was kind of interesting seeing that the rudo is being celebrated and being cheered for, because most of the time the boos are the cheers for the rudos, but I digress. This did bring us into our match, which had Felino and Felino Jr. Versus El Pantera and Hijo de Pantera. Yes, for those that are new, you do get a lot of this in Lucha Libre, where the father has a character and he passes that character on to the son. So the son becomes like Junior or Hijo, son of. So this is a standard thing that happens in Lucha Libre. But this match was a relevo sencillo. So it was a best 2 out of 3. Either both had to be both people on a team had to be pinned, or one had to be pinned and one submitted. So in this match, you had the Rudos, Felino and Felino Jr. Win the first pinfall. Then you had the Technicals win by pin and count out for the second win, which is always interesting. I always like when CML shakes it up and actually utilizes the count out. But then the third saw the Rudos getting the third win and so Felino and Felino Jr. won. But it was very interesting how this panned out because you had Felino Jr. pinning Hijo de Pantera. Then Pantera pins Felino Jr., making it just Felino and Pantera at the end. And Felino ends up pinning Pantera. And what was also really nice is seeing these wrestlers at the end congratulating, Felino and some great sportsmanship. Will, what were your thoughts on this match?
It was cat fight because they were panthers and tigers. I was like, I was watching the match, and this is silly, but about a quarter of the way in, I think I sent it in our group text, and I was like, cat fight, because I just realized that they were all cats, and I was like, this is hilarious. This was better than Cats itself. I love the ceremony. I love how ceremonious they are when it comes to like marking milestones. And I love how everyone gets involved. When they were bringing them out, or not bringing them, well, they did bring them out, but Felino, and he got the framed, the certificate and all that, and it was just so neat. And then the singer, I can't remember what her name was. I'm so sorry. That came out. It was just so neat. It's just so neat to look at the sort of, and I'm approaching tonight's whole thing on this, like, differences between American and Mexico, and the traditions are so, like, amazingly cool. This sort of traditional, like, we do this to honor. We have these, like, and I also love the generational, sort of like a generational art form almost that passes down from father to son. It's I love that. It's just so neat. It's also why I like Japanese culture, especially in theater and the arts, how it's very much a generational art form. It passes down. And so it's so neat when I see, like, Felino Jr., or son of, it's so neat. I love it. And it just kind of makes my culturally open heart happy. But so the ceremony was so neat. And and the last time that I was here, it was two times ago, but they had the big ceremony then as well. And it was just so neat. It was just so neat. And the fight was super cool. I figured that Felino and they were going to win, but for a second there, I honestly thought they weren't going to win.
Yeah, they were selling it really well.
Yeah, I was like, oh, no way, are they going to lose? Oh God, that would be horrible. But they did this to me the last time I was watching this too. They did the exact same thing. I was like, are they going to go, oh my gosh, it's going to lose this? Oh my gosh. And then they didn't. So it was great. So, but no, this was a great match. And then I just had the giggles the rest of the time once I realized they were cats. Yeah. So I giggled through the rest of the match. I mean, I watched it and it was fantastic. It was great. And like I said, I swear, I thought Felino was going to lose the match. And then I was going to feel really bad. Because it's like, oh, you just celebrated 40 years and now you lose. Oh, that would have been horrible, but it didn't happen. So I was like, yay. And you said he's the bad guy, right? He plays the
Yep. He's a Rudo.
Really? How funny. Yeah. This is another thing I'll point out, because the way he costumes, I would have never known that. Yeah. I would have totally thought oh, wow. I would have thought the Panther guys were like the Rudos. Yeah. Like, because, it's, and I guess that's just my brain, the white always represents the good guys, or black represents the bad guys. But no, I never would have guessed that until you said that. I was like, oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. That's so neat. Yeah. Then the audience was all going like, cheering for him. So I just assumed he was the good guy.
Right.
So yeah.
So Mikey, what did you think?
As far as the match itself goes, I really, really enjoyed it. Again, I have to retrain my brain because anytime you have these big celebration milestone moments, or when a wrestler is wrestling in their hometown, I'm always automatically trained. Oh, they gonna lose. Nobody wins in the hometown or these milestone types of things. I appreciate the fact that and we've seen it twice since starting CMLL, that when wrestlers reach a certain milestones, they actually take the time and they treat that whole ceremony like not as a joke, not as a punchline, not to, again, to further a storyline like we've seen in Western
Right.
wrestling.
Yep.
Which goes to show that when it comes, and it makes sense because CMLL is the oldest wrestling federation in the world. They've been around for 90 years, and they're about to turn 91 this upcoming September. So the fact that there's such this rich history dating back all the way when this federation started back in the 1900s, like, the fact that this federation has gone through generation and generation of doing this to honor and respect all of the trailblazers and those who are in this business, has been in this business for a long time. It's fantastic. Like, again, the juxtaposition, somebody as young as Mystico who celebrated 20 years when we first watched that, and then to fast forward to now, Felino has been in this business for 40 years.
Yeah.
What's nuts to me too is that most American wrestlers don't even reach those types of milestones. The most we get is maybe 15 to 20 years tops. But the fact that we have wrestlers who have been doing this forever, and to see Felino reach this 40-year milestone and then to be able to win a match is just icing on the cake for me. So,
and he can still move.
Exactly. That's the other thing too. I don't know what they got down in El Catedral, but I want some. Like,
that's what impresses me by, and to take your coin of phrase there, Mikey. But by the silver hairs that we see, they got moves and they can hang. It's not like in Western wrestling when they bring out the older wrestlers and you're like, oh please, yeah, they can't move, they try to do the moves that like they used to do years ago, but their backs and their knees are just shot to hell and they can't do it, or they get them up on stage and you're like, oh please God, do not have a heart attack.
Looking at you, Ric Flair, looking at you from your last match.
But these luchadors, they're coming out, and they might not be hitting the reps as fast as the younger talent, but they are hitting the reps and they're doing the moves, and it's very, very impressive. So this brings us to our next trios match, which was a Relevo Australiano, where we had Hijo de Villano 3, Hijo de Villano 3 Jr., and Templario versus Ultimo Guerrero, Stuka Jr., and Gran Guerrero. Believe it or not, both these teams are rudos.
I was about to say.
Yep, they're both rudos, so they were both being naughty with rules, so naughty. But the team of Ultimo Guerrero, Stuka Jr., and Gran Guerrero do end up with the win. Very controversial though, because what happened for the final, this was a best 2 out of 3, but what happened for the final pin was Villano Templario, Ultimo Guerrero throws Templario over his head, right? And then when Templario comes down, Ultimo Guerrero interposes his body so the ref can't see, and he kicks back and rings Templario's bell when he lands. And Templario keels over, and then you get the 1, 2, 3, which then this sets up. There's going to be a mano a mano match with Templario versus Ultimo Guerrero, because it looks like, I have to double check on this, but it looks like Templario was schooled by Ultimo Guerrero, because the whole conversation at the end there was that Ultimo Guerrero was Templario's teacher, but Ultimo Guerrero did not teach the student everything. So, Mikey, what do we think?
This was my match of the whole entire Friday night show. This was my favorite match on the Friday show, and I think that was partially in due of how increasingly loud and invested the crowd ended up getting for this entire match. Also, I'm gonna be a sucker anytime someone comes out in a traditional, like, Aztec Mayan headgear. Like, that is always gonna be bonus points with me. Also, hey, Templario, call me. I will say, I was just like, again, like I said earlier earlier in this review for the Friday show, age isn't necessarily a factor when it comes to wrestling, and neither is size. Because, like, there are some beefy boys in this match, and they were doing all the flips and the tricks. I think my favorite spot is when Gran Guerrero had an assistant, like, outside. So they were outside. Templario is on the barricade, and then Ultimo Guerrero, like, assists into, like, a pop-up Bronco Buster onto the barricade, where he throws
Yes. Yep.
Gran Guerrero up into, like, the barricade into a Bronco Buster. And also, I loved it. It was just perfect the way that the ending in the third round to get the final pinfall was fantastic. The ref was being imposed because of somebody else, and then poor Templario, man, he got his bells rang with that
Yeah, his
kick.
bell rang. Yep, that was very impressive.
What I love, go ahead.
It wasn't a 450 frog splash off the top rope. It wasn't some super crazy. It was so simple yet so beautifully executed. It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
I think, yeah, and then the final thing that I loved about this match too is, even though both teams were sets of rudos, you can tell that the crowd was so behind Team Templario in this whole entire match, which I loved. I was just like, they're both bad guys, but I want to cheer for them, which made me even love this match anymore. This was really, really fun. Once again, this match proved that size does not matter, because big boys be flipping and dipping, and I loved watching it.
All right, Will, what were your thoughts on this match?
This was my match of the evening because it was so dirty. I was loving all of the rule breaking, all of the dirtiness. I mean, just I was like, ooh. I mean, that that move at the end, I was like, dang. When he's like took off his mask and threw it to him, I was like, oh shit. And then he's like, I was like, oh man. And then of course the ref was all like, oh, I can't believe you did that. It's like, it was fantastic. I loved everything about it, and I agree with you, Mikey. It just shows that the big boys can do it too. I just, all of them. I loved all of them, and I know they were all bad guys. I kind of knew that from the beginning. I kind of knew that, but I loved them. And I think it's because it was sort of like they didn't care about the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And I really loved that. I just was like, oh, this is just fun. This is just an unhinged match.
Yes.
Like, they're going to do anything and everything they can to win. And they kind of did. And I was here for it. So I thoroughly enjoyed this match. Like I said, it was my match of the night for sure.
Nice. All right. So then this brings us this brings us to our final match of the night, where we saw Angel de Oro Averno in Euphoria. Averno coming out with Que Malito versus Esfinge, Star Jr. and Volador Jr. So I'm not. This was also a Relevo Australiano, best 2 out of 3. I'm not going to go through all the pinfalls. I just want, because I want to explain this epic ending that we had, which Will did touch on it a little bit. So
Yep.
what happened was Euphoria. The whole match was ripping at Esfinge's mask and ripping at Esfinge's mask, and the ref had been calling him on it. So then in the final, Euphoria takes off his own mask when the ref isn't looking, tosses it over to Esfinge, and then drops to the floor. So, of course, no one can see him. And when the ref turns around, he sees that Esfinge has Euphoria's mask. And he's like, what? I didn't. And as I explained last week, because masks are technically off limits unless it's a mask for mask match, the technicos of Esfinge, Star Jr. and Volador Jr. were disqualified. So, and this further set up somewhere down the pipe, we're going to be seeing Esfinge versus Euphoria and it's going to be a Mascara por Mascara match. So it was very, very exciting ending. I felt it was a good end for the show. Will, what did you think? Well, you gave us your thought. Do you have anything further to add about the final match?
Sorry, I got my 2 matches mixed up for some reason. Yeah, the match prior to this one was badass, and the low blow, I was like, holy crap. But this one was also that move at the end. I was just like, oh damn. Because I remember you telling us about the masks being off limits. Like, no. And I turned away, and when I came back, the mask was already off. And I was like, what happened? I was like, oh my God. So I immediately jumped to conclusions and was like, I can't believe he took his mask off like that. I can't. So then I rewound it and watched what actually happened. And I was like, oh, damn. That was a badass move, dude. I was just like, wow. And then he just like took it off, tossed it to him, and he's like, oh no. Oh God, it was brilliant. It was a brilliant move. It was totally underhanded and horrible, but it was brilliant. It was a brilliant move.
Yeah, no, yeah,
I mean, it really was.
Beautifully executed on Euphoria's side, and beautifully played on Esfinge. Like when he caught the mask, and he just kind of like sat there and was like, like looking like what the hell, it was great. It was great. Mikey, what'd you think of this mask? What'd you think of this match?
Well, first and foremost, shout out to Volador Jr. for the Venom Spider-Man gimmick he was going on in this match. Listen, I'm a big sucker for any comic books and anything nerddom finding its way into professional wrestling, because nerds and wrestling go together. I'm just saying. I really enjoyed this match. I love how we got to the ending of it. One of my favorite wrestlers, and Adolfo and Will know this, like one of my favorite wrestlers of all times is Eddie Guerrero. So this whole mask spot, I was like, oh, that is something that Eddie would have done. Like Eddie made the chair spot famous in Western wrestling, where, pretend to be hit with the chair, throw it at someone, be like, oh, you hit him with the chair, you're disqualified. I love seeing shades of like those underhanded tactics in CMLL because it makes it more interesting. And, it's been a very interesting ride because we have seen me and Adolfo have seen lots of Volador Jr., not just here in CMLL, but also when we had CMLL invade AEW at the beginning of this year. I was like, he's leaning more into being a heel. And then here he's like technical. I was like, okay, this is kind of great. I love this so much. This match was a lot of fun. At first, I was just like, I don't know how I felt about the ending. But then once I rewatched the match, I was like, you know what? It makes sense for what we got. And it sets up a mass versus mass match, which I was just like, oh, yes, this is about to be on and popping. This is going to be so good. I thought this was a really fun way to end the Friday show. And, I had a great time. And through, this was a really fun show to get through, which then made my excitement even more because I got lots of things to say about the Tuesday show because I also enjoyed that.
So that this wraps up our Friday show. But before we get to the Tuesday show, if you do like what you're hearing, if you do like talking about the Lucha Libre, and you do like the Biconics, please like and subscribe to us, and check us out on all the socials on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, X, formerly known as Twitter, and for tonight, because we have reached a milestone, the Biconics, we have reached a milestone of 200 subscribers over on YouTube. So for tonight, we are doing a bit of giveaway, and what we're going to be giving away is one of our Luchador New Jersey stickers that
limited edition
that we took to the New Jersey WrestleCon, and also limited edition. I'm not even going to open this pack because it's sealed. Is the limited edition trading cards that we had made for the New Jersey WrestleCon, which is right here. So what we're going to do for this giveaway is if we would like you to comment below in the comments. Give us a comment. And you know what? Let us know who your favorite luchador is in the comments. And from there, we're gonna keep this open until this upcoming Friday, the next Friday show. And at the start of the next Friday show, we will take all the people that commented down below, and we will draw a name, and we will announce the winner on our socials. So please comment your favorite luchador below to enter to a chance to win, and buena suerte. So this brings us to our Tuesday show. There was the Saturday show. This is the second week in a row that there was no Sunday show. It was very interesting. But there was also a Monday show. But there are two shows on Tuesday. You have the Martes Populares from Mexico City, and then you have the Martes de Glamour from Guadalajara. So because we're running short on time, Mikey, go ahead and give us a synopsis of your thoughts of the Martes Populares from Mexico City.
So I watched as El Puntador stated, I watched the Arena Mexico show for Tuesday. Honestly, this was a really good match. I'm going to say this every single week. I love the fact that most of these matches are best 2 out of 3, like trios, tag team matches. It was great. I thought the opener with Mercurio and Pequeño Olímpico taking on Acero and Arero. I had to make sure I said that right because one vowel replaces everything. First and foremost, it's nice to see that Mercurio is okay because I believe it was last week. We thought that he got hurt real bad because they had to take him out on a stretcher, but it seems that he's doing okay now, which is super fantastic. My personal favorite match of the whole entire night was the, match after our opener, which saw Diamond, Retro, and Robin taking on Graco, Inquisidor, and Sangre Imperial. I spoke on this last week. The more I see Robin, the more that he's become my favorite because Short Kings for life. I don't know. There's just something about Robin's style of wrestling that's very intricate and interesting to watch because, yes, he is a little bit stocky. Yes, he could do the flying things. Not to say that height is a thing, but I find it interesting of just how fluid his movements are, given that he is relatively shorter than most of the luchadors he is fighting. And it kind of showed in this match him being the shortest, but I was just like, yeah, that match was really good. Robin was one of my favorites. The match with Captain Suicida, Guerrero Maya Jr., Volcano, and Casebrero, Granero, and Okumura was a lot of fun. But then we got a championship match, which I forgot was on the card until we watched it. And that was my favorite match of the whole entire card because we had Futuro, Max Star, and Hombre Bala Jr. taking out Apocalypsis, Destebrio, and the most like Mexican name that I could ever think of is Cholo. I loved it. It was hilarious. But
Los Indestructibles.
Exactly. This is what trios matches need to be all over the Federation because I was on the edge of my seat the whole entire time. And I love that we set this match up from last week's shows that happened. They're like, we're going to fight this. I was like, oh, okay, you know, they'll announce it later. And then they're like, these are for the titles. I'm like, oh, dang, here we go, you guys. This was like somebody put the foot on the gas pedal because it was 100 miles per hour until the very end. Like, I love, again, you have your younger stars in Futuro Max Star and Hombre Bala Jr. taking on the more established team of Apocalypsis, Cholo, and, Distubrio. This was fantastic. Everybody gave everything. But more importantly, what I loved is that because I'm so used to heels pouting and beating up, the faces in American wrestling after they lose the title, I loved that once the titles were exchanged to our new champions, we had our, our former champions like respect, hold their arms, like clap for them. Like, I loved watching the sportsmanship evolve. That was my favorite match. And then again,
you did jump over that real quick, Mikey. But so the Indestructibles, they were the champions coming into this match. They lost their championship belts to Futuro, Max Star, and Hombre Bala Jr., which is also something that you never see on, or you hardly ever see on a, dare I say, rank and file TV show in the West. Your title changes are mostly always saved for your pay-per-views, but here not the case.
Right. That so apparently these were for the Mexican National Trios titles, which I love seeing. This is my favorite match of this show. Then I also really loved the match we got between Atlantis Senior. I'm guessing because it's not Junior, but it's Atlantis, the dad, taking on Blue Panther. I was like, oh my gosh. See, as a kid who grew up in a Mexican household, I am very familiar with these two names, even if I didn't watch Lucha Libre back then. Because again, and this is, I don't want to say it's sad to say because this movie brought Lucha Libre into the Western mindset. But I was like, I know these names because I'm familiar with the things that went down in Nacho Libre, which is one of my personal favorite movies of all times. But going into this, when they announced this match was happening, I was like, oh, damn, I forgot. I was like, this is going to be good. This was a great match. Atlantis picks up the victory here, but this was fantastic.
Yep. And again, two silver hairs in a match with Lampago. And they were giving it their all, man.
And then we closed out with another fantastic match, my second favorite match of the night, Máscara Dorada, Neon, and Star Jr. taking on the whole entire squad of Los Barbaros, which is Dragón Rojo Jr., one of my new favorite characters, El Barbaro Cavernario, and El Terrible. Like, listen, give me caveman, give me dinosaurs. Like, this is what I need. Like, again, the characters in the presentation that a lot of these luchadores and Amazonas in CMLL present themselves, I love that they all lean into the ridiculousness, and I'm okay with suspending my disbelief with all of this because it is super fantastic. Between the Tuesday show and the Friday show, both of them were equally as fun and exciting, but I have to give the Tuesday show just maybe like one more point, and that helps because, again, Robin is becoming one of my personal favorites, as well as Flip Gordon, who was on the Saturday show, I believe. Yeah.
Yes.
Flip Gordon is also one of my personal favorites. But what pushed the Tuesday show up a little bit for me is the fact that I forgot, but we got to see a championship match happen. And the fact that for all intents and purposes, on a weekly television show, we had the championships change hands, which is super fantastic. But overall, this Tuesday show was in Arena Mexico was fantastic. And I'm looking forward to see what's coming next because I believe we're about to enter the tournament, right? Yeah, the tournament's happening next week. I am so excited for El Torneo Plato. Plato? Yeah, Plato. I'm thinking the Platinum Tournament. I'm super excited. It's going to be good.
Yeah, it starts on Friday. Super excited. All right, so Will, you had a completely, I mean, you still had a good time, but you had a completely different show with Martes de Glamour from the Arena Coliseo in Guadalajara. What were your let's do it this way. What were your overall thoughts on the show? And that does also include the crowd, because it was a completely different feel from Mexico City. And then what was from what you saw, what was your favorite match?
Okay, so the Guadalajara show was interesting, and in the best possible way. The differences between Mexico and Guadalajara. One, there's tons of differences. One, it's not as showy, and what I mean by that is like the technical aspects, the big screens and all of that. All of it, it's very, very small compared. The crowd is so, like, in Mexico is so energetic and it's so electric. And the one in Guadalajara wasn't horrible. It wasn't as, I don't know, it didn't have the same feel. One of the things I did love about the Guadalajara show was the mix of wrestlers on the teams, because in the very first one was, oh god, sorry, Bello and Antoine, I believe.
Bejo Antoine, see.
How fabulous. I was like, and I love the fact that they were like the streamers off their masks. They were like doing it like hair, and it was such a fun. It was so much fun. I actually had a really good time watching the matches that I got to watch. Now I only got to watch 3 total until my meds started kicking in, but it was not as showy. Like, I mean, it had its showmanship quality, but it wasn't as showy. Like, it wasn't like glitz and glam. It wasn't like, it's like Broadway versus off Broadway. It's that idea that Broadway is so glamorous and it's so like bright and shiny. And this one was very sort of real and down to earth. And even though the costumes were nice and some of them were quite fabulous, but even the masks were slightly different in quality almost. Not in a bad way, just in how they're made is what I guess I'm talking about. My favorite match was absolutely the mini estrellas. Oh my god, what fun that was. It was so much fun. And it wasn't necessarily like, it wasn't funny.
Yeah.
Like, look at little people wrestling each other. No, it was fun.
Yeah.
Like, because they were doing it. They were wrestling, and it was great. And, and I love, who was it? Periquito, I believe. I love that he was
Periquito
like,
Zacarias.
Yes, he was dressed as the bird. And I mean, that was fantastic. And I'm just like, how are you doing it in that full costume like that? But it was great. I loved it. It was probably, out of the matches I saw, it was my favorite, just because it was so fun. But the 3 matches that I did see, including that one, were actually really good. when you were like, "Oh, there's 2 of them," and I was like, "Oh, really? Oh, okay." And I'm kind of glad that this is the one I picked, because it's again, it's so different than the one in Mexico, and I really enjoyed it. I'm going to go back and watch the rest of it, because I really want to.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
I don't feel like, oh God, I have to. It's like I really want to go watch the rest of it. So
yeah.
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was super fun, and I'm like, why aren't we like reviewing this one? We should review this one, because this one's like. But I have a feeling I'll probably say that about any of the ones I watched. So, but I really enjoyed this one. It was super good. If you haven't watched it, or you haven't had a chance, or have the moment to go watch the Guadalajara show, go watch it. It is completely different, but it's super fun.
It is. It is a lot of fun. Yeah.
What I love about each of the different locations, from Arena Mexico, the Guadalajara, El Coliseo, and just the Guadalajara show, Arena Mexico, and even the other, where we have 3 different locations for CMLL doing their shows. They're all so different, and I love it. And just how watching the crowd and the wrestlers interact with everyone is fantastic. It's so different. I love it. It's again, I'm gonna keep saying this until the wheels come off, but having such a different perspective now, watching CMLL and seeing how Lucha Libre is within the same branch of professional wrestling, but the rules and how they handle things are so completely different than Western counterparts, and even other styles of wrestling around the world. Like Lucha Libre, the rules are different from like UK and European wrestling, from Japanese style of wrestling. It's super fantastic. I love it. And this week was no different. I loved it, from championship matches to Rudo versus Rudo teams, which is something that we don't even get to see here in the States, because it's always usually good guy versus bad guy.
Yep.
I really enjoyed this week. So, El Putador, take us home, my friend.
All righty. So that brings us to the end. Please, if again, we are doing the giveaway. So go ahead and comment down below who your favorite luchador is, and then we will pull the names from that, and we will have the drawing. The drawing will be, as a matter of fact, I will do the drawing live before the Friday night Viernes Espectacular. So there we go. And we're going to hold off one or two more shows to start introducing the empanada scale, because we are still getting our feet on the ground with CMLL, and so until we've figured out the actual shows that we're going to watch, because they do have multiple shows, as you have seen tonight. They have multiple shows on the same day even. So but for Mikey, for El Jefe, for Papa Oso, Will, just remember that you all are biconic. We're biconic. Let's all be biconic. Let's love each other, and hablamos luego. See ya.